And we're back on this Monday night, the 27th day of November 2023. We're grateful you're back with us tonight. I want to just say thank you again to Miss Ruth Wasserman, Lande. What a great interview. I wanted that interview to stay by itself, stand alone. Depending on how this goes, we'll either take this down and put it in the Telegram room. We got a lot of updating to do the Telegram room. We encourage you folks, the MacFiles.org. Please go to that website and click on that Telegram link, and it's got a lot of news. We updated a lot of news stories from this weekend, and we don't put a lot of commentary in there because we usually reserve that for the show. I probably need to start doing that more and be more interactive with you there, but I think some of these stories just speak for themselves, and we deal with a lot of the headlines here on the network, and so we encourage you to check it out. We've got a lot of breaking stuff going on tonight. I want to address something that's going on with some of the anti-Semitic rhetoric that is still raging out there tonight. I was talking to my dear friend Della Stryker tonight. We were talking. Della's going to be on the show very soon, probably within the next week or so. Hanukkah's coming up here. 1st of December. We always get Della around the Jewish holidays to come and give her insight. And I asked her tonight, I said, Della, I said, I hadn't really spoke to you since October the 7th. And I said, have you seen anything like this in your lifetime? Della's Jewish. And she texted me back and she said, Chris, I haven't. And she said, you know, my daughter was going to get married to an Israeli. And they were going to be married in Israel around that October the 7th, and that happened, and they're now going to get married in Miami, and it changed her daughter's life basically in the course of events with her. And folks, it's changed the life of everybody. You know, Ruth was very calm in her demeanor, but I'm an interviewer. I've been doing this about 6 years, going on 7, but I got my first job ever as a radio broadcaster. I was working at a part-time radio disc jockey in high school, so I've been in this line of work for a long time, and I've watched interviews for many, many years, and I've learned my craft and learned this trade, and the Lord's anointed me to do what I do, but I've not just depended on that, even though I thank the Lord that He has, but when the Lord anoints you to do something, He wants you to do the best you can and learn the trade and learn what He's anointed you to do and do the best job you can and improve on it. And I've watched many an interview, and I sometimes can read between the lines, and I know that Ruth's heart was breaking during that interview. I knew it was, and she wanted to say a lot more probably than she did, as I would have. I mean, and she is part of the government there in Israel, and she's trying her best to, I'm sure, show decorum, but I don't think she really could have said it any stronger, folks, that, look, the nation of Israel tonight's hurting. And there's a lot of people that are still perplexed over what's going to happen with these hostages. We're going to show a few memes here in a minute. We will take your questions here before the night's out and comments. So please be getting those ready. And please, folks, when we open this chat up, it's not to pop on and say hello to everybody. We want you to have your questions ready. Be getting your questions ready now. I'm not going to sit here and wait around 30 minutes for questions. If you got a question, you get ready to ask it. We'll be ready to answer it just as soon as we come on. Now, if you want to go ahead and email it to us, you can do that too, MacFilesForum@gmail.com. I'm not trying to be a snot about it, but as I said, changes are coming to the network in January, and we're trying to streamline these things and make the show very accessible to all people, news related, and we opened the chat up now just out of courtesy more than anything else. The only time we even open the chat up is on Sundays, but I don't want to get into that tonight. It's not what the show's about. This is an afterthought show, and I do want to interact with you, but get your questions ready and thoughts, and we'll open it up here soon. I watched Ruth in that interview, and again, it was a pre-recorded interview. We actually did it early in the morning. She's on Israeli time, and I had to do that interview. I want to say around noon. It was around noon on Wednesday, and I've watched her. She was a Fox News contributor. She's been on other networks, a lot of social media pages. She's got a great social media presence. I've listened to her talk, and she, by her own admission, she's not right-wing. She's very middle of the road, and I love people like that. I'm not, folks, I'm not far right. I'm not, like, I'm just a common sense conservative. I'm a common sense believer in Jesus, and I have my view of the world, but my view is biblical, and my view is what the Bible says about things, and, you know, that's not going to mesh with a lot of the world's thinking and a lot of this liberalism, for sure, but it's not going to mesh with a lot of conservatives, because there's a lot of conservatives that don't know God. And there's a lot of conservatives that have a view of the world that is just as distorted and just as messed up in the head as anything the liberals could do. They just do it in a right-wing way. But I texted her a few times through the communication source after the show, and I thanked her profusely. I said, Ruth, we cannot tell you thank you enough. And it was about 3 hours after the network that this incident took place in the northern part of Niagara Falls near New York. And there was rumors or questions for a few hours on Wednesday, late Wednesday into Thursday, Thanksgiving, that we may have had a terrorist attack. And that turned out to be not true as far as we know. And I sent that to Ruth, and I said, you know, looks like we've had something. And she just put it bluntly to me. And she said, Chris, she says, these kind of things are going to happen more and more. It's going to get worse. And our nation, both nations, are going to be susceptible to these things more as we go forward. And I totally agree with that. I totally agree. I am debating whether to go scorched earth right now on some things about these anti-Semites. I'm trying to hold my decorum. I know I get very fired up at times, and I say a lot of things, and I go back the next day. I always go back to all programs because it's just been a habit of mine. I go back the next morning, because if I do it right after the show, it's not going to measure to me, because I've still got the adrenaline and the fired up attitude, and I'll listen to it, say, you doggone right, go get them, McDonald. And usually if I sleep on it a day or two and I go back and listen to it, I'm more objective as to whether the show had the right tone or was a little harsh, and need to go back and apologize for things I say. I know for 6 years I probably would have I would probably have a lot more audience tonight if I'd have done that more in the first 4.5 years of this network than I've done in the last year and a half. But anyway, I'm just McDonald, you know, and it's what makes the Mac Files, right? And see, the thing about that radio network, they won't be able to see my face. They'll see me at night, but they won't see my face. They'll just hear my voice. The only thing they can do there is just yank that radio dial down, and people can throw stuff at the TV on this platform. But we're going on radio in January. I'm excited about it, really, and it's going to be a new show. But I listened to her, and folks, this hostage situation it's eating at the world. It's eating at the Israelis bad. It's eating at the Jews. It's eating at me tonight. I'm just going to give you my take on this. Israel was given 13 hostages, 14. Okay, they were all women and children. That's all they were. No soldiers, no Americans were in that. Hamas was given, or going to be given, according to this deal, 150 hardened criminals, hardened terrorists that have done great acts of violence against the Israelis. Some of them with blood on their hands. People have been killed at their hands. But yet, we're to be told that this is an unfair situation, and people are still spreading lies about the Jewish people tonight. You've got certain people claiming that Israel's hiding pedophiles. That's a lie. I want them to prove that. They can't. It's just hearsay. And folks, every nation in this world is hiding pedophiles. If you get down to it, the Americans are hiding pedophiles. We've got a pedophile problem in this country, and this administration is doing absolutely nothing about it. But because people hate Jews and they are anti-Semitic, and again, they say stuff that make the Nazis basically blush, they put stuff out there like it's gospel. And I don't care what funny costume they dress in, they're flat lying, and they're a bunch of damnable liars doing it. And when you listen to it and share it, you're a damnable individual for sharing it. Then you got another group that's claiming that the Israelis are committing genocide still. And you heard Ruth tonight, folks. There's not been a soldier on Gaza soil since 2005. Look Ariel Sharon and Bush Jr. saw to that. They annexed that Gaza Strip to the Palestinians, and Israel's not been in the Gaza since 2005. And even before then, she was there just to help humanitarian, and the Palestinian Authority was in charge of the Gaza people. And then the Gaza people said, screw you, Palestinian Authority. That's when they got rid of the Palestinian Authority. And in 2007, they elected Hamas to be their ruling party over them. And that's the same Hamas that perpetrated this butchery and barbarism in Israel on October the 7th, the same Hamas that's in their charter. Folks, it ain't just one or two sentences. I told Ruth, and I'll tell you again tonight, the whole charter, there ain't a page on that charter that somewhere don't call for the destruction of Israel, the complete annihilation of the Jewish people, the state of Israel. They do not have any desire to coexist with Israel. They want their destruction. Hezbollah wants their destruction. Fatah wants their destruction. It's not about the land. But you've still got people with anti-Semitic hate in their heart spreading lies that Israel's committing genocide. That's another damnable lie. It's a damnable lie. And then you've got another group of people out there tonight that are claiming that, again, that they actually could believe that Israel's lying about the baby beheadings. They're lying about the babies being butchered. They're lying about these hostages. The Sky News literally, this is unreal. We put the story in the website tonight on the Telegram room. Sky News was reporting today that Israel was being racist. Get this. They were accusing Israel of racism in releasing Hamas terrorists. Now, I didn't even get into the article. My head was spinning by the headline. I don't even know how you can draw racism out of a prisoner release where you're getting 50 of 250 hostages, which are mainly 99% women, children, and babies and young ones. And then you're giving up 150 hardcore, again, terrorists that have got blood on their hands. Many of them have been involved in great killings, huge killings of Israel's soldiers and citizens, and the bloodshed, and I wouldn't doubt they don't have American blood on their hand too. But we're to be told tonight, because of the way that this Sky News believe Israel has handled this, that they're racist, and they're releasing these 150 and demanding that their own hostages come home. Now, you go figure that one out. But that's mild compared to the stuff that's out there tonight. That is mild compared to this. I want to just give you this take, and I know these few people think that I've been bashing them like crazy for the last year or two. And folks, it's not the people that's involved. Look, I've got dear friends that still hold and still hang on with their fingernails, with every last fingernail they've got, and the lack of brains they got, but that's between them and their creator. They still believe this stuff. I don't. I think there was a time at the very, very beginning, I hoped that some of this was true. I think we all did. I think there was some of it that we said, maybe it's true. I hope it comes to pass. I sort of began to see at the end of 2020, it was right before the election, that a lot of this stuff should have already been taken place. It should have already been handled. And then when we got to that election, and none of it was being done, Hillary wasn't in jail, Obama wasn't in jail, none of these election situations were being taken care of. Folks, we were being promised everything under the sun. We were told that, again, everybody in the deep state, that was their big term, was going to prison. They're going to Gitmo. Hangings were going to be in the public square, and then it got crazy, and then this crazy stuff started being interjected that Obama was a clone, Hillary was a clone, the pedophile Pizzagate stuff started, and all of this other stuff. And folks, again, I'm not here to deny that there's not pedophiles in this nation, in this world. Of course there's pedophiles. There's pedophilia everywhere. But it's not tied to just one nation. It's tied to the entire world system. And to, again, highlight Israel being as if they're the only ones that has a pedophile problem. Again, folks, that is anti-Semitic Jewish hate. And then you take another group, and this group disgusts me more than any of them, is the cowards. That people have no clarity about good and evil. Ruth outlined it tonight. of how that we are facing a crisis, folks, of moral clarity, that we don't understand what evil is and what good is anymore. I mean, you've got people out there that they don't see anything that Hamas did as being bad, because in their minds they were liberating Palestine from these occupiers and these colonizers and these evil Zionists. And again, out of pure plain ignorance, and whether it's scriptural ignorance or just plain ignorance of history, plain ignorance, or just plain good old-fashioned Jew hatred. Why don't we just cut to the chase and let's just stop the charade, and let's stop acting like that we've got these mantles on us to speak, these prophetic words and speak these things to people, but yet we can't even stand on a platform and say that Israel is fighting a righteous cause of self-defense, because their people were butchered like a bunch of animals, and babies were beheaded, babies were burned in ovens, women were raped in record numbers, men were slaughtered in front of their wives, families were ripped apart, babies were yanked out of their beds, barbarism in a manner we've not seen since the Holocaust on the Jewish people. But yet we want to talk about frequencies and all this other bullshit instead of clarifying what is good and what is evil. Folks, that is nothing but a spiritual coward. It's nothing but cowardice. And that strikes me as more disgusting than even the terrorism itself. And the terrorism itself is great. And it's across the board. I'm not signaling no one person out in this. It's the whole church system tonight that is silent. And then voices that are brave enough to speak up. And look, we don't point to this network much, but I'm going to tell you something. This network has not had any kind of gray area with it since this started. You don't have to tune onto the Mac Files any night of the week and say, I wonder what Chris thinks about this. No, we have let you know from the beginning how we feel about this. And we've not changed in that feeling, and we won't change in that feeling. But to not speak up, folks, against the evil that was perpetrated against the Jewish people, you are a coward. And you are a pathetic coward at that. And if you've got some kind of moral fog in your brain that you can't see the difference between good and evil, you got a greater problem than just somebody's DNA or somebody's generational curse you're trying to get off somebody. I'm a little wired up a little bit on this Monday night. I'm being pretty calm considering what I want to be. But folks, there's no clarity. There's no clarity of good and evil in this landscape tonight. That should scare you. And Ruth put it beautifully. It's an ideology, folks. It's over that region tonight. You can kill every terrorist you've got. You can kill every individual in Gaza that's a terrorist tonight, folks. That theology is deeply embedded in those kids. It is deeply embedded in that region, and Israel is facing an enemy of unprecedented proportions. Israel's only hope tonight is God. Israel's only hope tonight is God, just like America's only hope tonight is God, too. We just tend to be more judgmental. We want to stand up as the moral compass of the world and claim that we've got the right to tell these other nations what to do when we can't even define transgenderism and define whether a man's a woman over here. You've got the Department of Homeland Security tonight. You know what he's concerned about, Mayorkas? He ain't worried about that border tonight. He is telling his agents that you don't need to misrepresent the gender of these illegal aliens and these pronouns. If you get caught misrepresenting pronouns, you're going to get fired as a border agent. That's what Mayorkas is out there screaming tonight. Yeah, that's on our network too. More Mayorkas that's what we're worried about. And then you've got the church that is, again, been carried off into God knows what foolishness. And the world is burning, folks. The world is literally on the brink of World War III. America is truly, truly at a place of no return spiritually. But let me just say this to you tonight, folks. America's been at this place for a long time. It just didn't happen in the last 2 or 3 years. And I just want to know, I want to know tonight, why has the church been silent for the last 8 years, and all of a sudden, a lot of these voices are just catching Jesus. They're finding Jesus and realizing, well, the country's in spiritual mess, in a spiritual mess. You think? You think? Yeah. It's been in a spiritual mess for 8 years. But we've had our head up the QAnon's butt. and our head in the QAnon smoke cloud. But all of a sudden, we recognize now that the world is in a spiritual morass, and America is about to lose her spiritual soul. Folks, America's already lost her spiritual soul. America lost her spiritual soul years ago. But again, because we don't have a church with a voice, and we don't have a church with clarity in it, and we don't have a church that is speaking truth, and we don't have people that know the difference between truth and error, and good and evil. You don't need a man. Look, if we've had, I hear this all the time, we just needed Trump to reveal these things to us. Why in the living hell did we need Trump to reveal these things to us? Were we kindergartners? Are we that deaf? Were we that daft in our heads not to recognize good from evil, to recognize killing a baby was murder? Did we need Trump to tell us that pedophilia was sick and disgusting and perverted? Why do we need a man to tell us that? Why did we need a political figure to tell us that there was corruption in government? Why did we need a political figure to tell us that there's right and there's wrong in the world? He was never elected to be the pastor-in-chief nor the spiritual voice of this nation. That is not the president's job, folks. That is the church's job. That is the church's job and the pulpit's job. But when we abdicate that responsibility to politicians, and we abdicate that responsibility to YouTubers, and we abdicate that responsibility to X-Men, and we abdicate that responsibility to Telegram writers, and we abdicate that responsibility to social media personalities, then we get the morass that we've got tonight. And you get the anti-Semitism that is raging on those same platforms tonight in unprecedented fashion with no apology. There's never been an apology for any of it. And you can hold your breath because there won't be. I'm going to make it abundantly clear to you tonight, folks. You ain't had to have no gray area when it comes to the Mac files. We've lost a ton of people over this. We have lost dear friends. We have lost close friends, people we thought were brothers, sisters. We thought would be with us in this fight to the end. And they're nowhere to be found. They're silent. And let me tell you something. It's all good with me. Look, I love them. We don't hate nobody. We don't even resent them. I don't even feel bad at them. Because you know something? Going into next year, I would rather stand alone in this fight and know I'm on the right side of this fight than to stand with a bunch of cowards that cannot clarify good and evil. And I know that sounds very mean-spirited, folks, tonight, but I mean it with everything in me. I'm actually saying it with great love tonight. I'm saying it as a wake-up and a shake-up call to many tonight. I'll stand alone if I need to. But there's got to come a place that if we don't get this moral clarity issue fixed in this nation, folks, and it's not just the young. These protests in the colleges are only a mirror of what is raging in the hearts of many adults in this nation. Kids are just a symptom. The symptom is just a symptom. It's not the problem. The root problem is they're hearing it from their mom and daddies, and they're hearing it from their preachers, and they're hearing it from their YouTube idols, and they're hearing it from their social media good buddies, and all their Telegram buddies, and their college professors, and a lot of other people that are in power tonight, folks. They're only a mirror of us. Those kids have heard this stuff. A lot of these kids wouldn't, and I don't know if it was Ruth Gottenheim, was it Gadon? One of them, somebody said this one night on the show, they couldn't even, if you asked them to point to Palestine on a map, they couldn't even tell you where it's at. If you asked them to point to Israel on a map, they couldn't even come within a universe of telling you where Israel's at. If you was to ask them what's the capital of the United States of America, do you know that a lot of those kids holding those Palestinian flags couldn't tell you what the capital of America was? If you asked them what the Revolutionary War was in 1776, many of them would look at you and say, what was that? When you asked them general questions, how many states are in the Union, they couldn't tell you that. But yet, they're experts on the Middle East. Greta Thunberg tonight, Miss Climate Change herself, has now declared herself an expert on the Zionists. She says that we've got to destroy Zionism. Wow. Wow. I'm going to say it. I can say it now because Ruth ain't attached to the program. This is me tonight. This is all Chris. Ruth Ruth did a great job of keeping her cool. Chris ain't got to keep his cool, because this is my afterthought program. And this is what I feel about things. And this is my opinion. This is an opinion show. And this is what we do the Mac Files for. But I'm going to tell you something. Greta has just got a little problem tonight. It ain't climate change. And it ain't the Zionists. Greta just needs a good old-fashioned ass whipping by her parents to teach her that you basically respect authority. And you don't go out there and show yourself the fool that you are. And I may have to take the show down for saying that, but that's all right. I'll stand by that. Because that's what happens when you grow up in a household and they tell you as a child that you're privileged and you're okay to say what you want to say. And we would never tell you that something's disrespectful or you disrespect authority. God forbid that you go out there and say something like that and us parents be a little upset about that. No, we're okay with that, Greta. She got that from her mom and daddy. She got that from somebody in authority. That kid ain't smart enough to do what she's doing. But the media has made her this sensation that she is tonight. Now, that is my open monologue. These opinions are mine. They're not yours. They're mine. You ain't got to like it. You ain't got to watch it. I'm about this right here. I wore my We the People sweatshirt today. It's cold here in these hills today. It turned cold here last week of November going into December. It's turned cold here. So I got to wear my sweatshirt for the first time, and I couldn't pick a better one for tonight's show than this one right here. This is what this network is about. It's what it's going to be about going into 24. And it's going to be about moral clarity of good and evil. And we're not going to be afraid to speak what we feel is right and call out what is wrong. We're not going to get into slanderous accusations and innuendo and things we can't prove and this and that, the other. This ain't going to be a mudslinging operation. It's going to be a news network. It's going to be an opinion network. It's going to be a commentary network. And it's going to be a truth network going forward. And we don't have to put truth in our title to make you think we're telling the truth. Because I think the truth will speak for itself. It don't need to be defended. I'll let the history of this world defend the truth. I'll let the Lord God above defend the truth. You know, there's a lot of people that are putting out these lies tonight. God's hearing every one of them, folks. But I do believe that there are still some truth tellers out there. I do believe there are some people that have still got a moral compass in their body, and they're speaking truth. They're speaking the truth about what's going on tonight. God's hearing that too. God hears that. He knows those that are standing up for what's right. But he also knows those that are spreading these damnable lies. He knows these that are spreading these damnable lies. All right, give me about 2 minutes. I want to do just a few things before we take your questions tonight. I've not forgot about that. Here's Miss Greta right there. By the way, this is her today. This is out of the Gateway Pundit of Western Journal. She was caught on video going full anti-Semite. Wow, it's amazing how in just 2 years you go from climate guru to being an anti-Semite. Crush Zionism. Zionism. That kid probably couldn't tell you what Zionism is if you ask her. Probably couldn't even define it. But that's Greta Thunberg for you. She is a raging anti-Semite. This is what I want to talk about a little bit tonight. I don't have time to read all of them, but I want to read this one right here. This is Mr. Stu Peters. I'm sorry, I was a little rude. Elon Musk came out today, and I don't have time to play the video. We're going to do this and that one night this week when I have more time. And we are going to play the video. Elon had a lot of things to say about Israel. He was talking about the violence, and he was talking about the clarity between Israel going out of its way to hurt civilians and Hamas actually hurting civilians and raping civilians and beheading babies and burning babies, and Israel doing its best not to have casualties, but in the course of war, these things happen. Well, Elon basically came down with clarity in this situation, and he is the owner of X. Well, Stu, who uses the X platform to spew his anti-Semitism bullshit and his damnable lies and his damnable heresies, Well, he went off on Elon tonight, and I'll read this to you. Elon has been compromised. See the Israeli flags? Elon Musk, after visiting Israel, the rebuttal is often made that, well, Israel has killed civilians also in Gaza, but there is an important difference here, which is that Israel tries to avoid killing civilians, doing it everything it can to avoid, and there's more to that. And he basically talks about how Israel, folks, if you want to find out what the difference of the two parties are, you can look no further than the very first day of operations when the IDF went into Gaza City, into that hospital, and there were people in that hospital that got killed because Hamas was putting human beings in that hospital as human shields. That was day one. But there is multiple accounts of that. Folks, Hamas is holding infant boys still in hostages tonight. They're only giving Israel 13. They claim they were going to give Israel 50. Only 13 have been released. While Israel is rapidly giving back hardened Hamas terrorists to this damnable bunch of liars and killers and murderers and baby killers and baby burners. Not the Israelis, Stu. Hamas. But Stu don't stop there, because Stu wants to spew. And this is his spew as of 11/27. Life magazine, he says, covered Palestine in 1948 before the atheists at the UN gave us the Talmudic, Kabbalah's, Zion supremacist, Christ-hating government. Woo! Of Israel. So he's basically saying, I guess, that God himself had nothing to do with the recreation and the formation of Israel. By the way, Stu, I'm laughing a little bit. You might want to rethink this a little bit. This ain't going to age well, Stu. Israel's mentioned 2,766 times in the Bible, Stu. It wasn't the UN that gave us Israel. And the Christ-hating government, as you, Stu, have you looked at your own government? I'm an American, Stu. We're American citizens together, dumbass. And I hate to use that word tonight. But have you looked at your own government, Stu? Do you not think this government is Christ-hating? Good Lord. That's on the internet tonight, folks. That's 11/27. I'll get in trouble for that comment I just made. I shouldn't have said that probably, but anyway. You can't look at these statistics. You can't look at these statistics and think anything other than Israel is committing crimes against humanity. Not one mention of Hamas there. Not one mention of Hamas. Now that's dated 11/28. I don't know how that happened, unless he's in another time zone, which is possible. I don't know where this guy lives. I don't care. He's one of the main voices out there on X. But folks, I'm only using him in this vein, not to sort of call him out, but that statement right there is at the heart of most of these anti-Semitic remarks and most of this Jew hatred. And the numbers that he is talking about are basically numbers, and I've got if you'll give me 1 minute, I need to find these numbers. I had the numbers here. Let's see here. And I'm going to get to your questions here. It's 10:49. We're going to go about 10 more minutes, 10, 15 more minutes. I'm going to get to your questions in just 1 second. Let me see here. Let me see if I can find that. Dang, I had it here. Give me 1 minute here, folks. Give me 1 second. There it is right here. There it is right here, and I'm going to download this. Let me get all of these here. We got a lot to share tonight, but not enough time to do it. I'll do this. I'll pick this up again tomorrow night after Victor Avila is going to be on. Victor's going to be with me tomorrow night late. Magdalene Rose will be with me tomorrow too, so I hope you'll join us on the E Network. If you dare, you can join me in the Bible study in the morning on the Faith Network. These are the numbers that Stu claims that are true, and they're not. This is, and I shouldn't put her name up there, this is from another QAnon. Who are the Palestinian hostages? Now, folks, if you don't believe that the devil is the father of lies, of the 300 Palestinian names given for release to Israel, by the way, that's a lie in itself. Palestinian Hamas only asked for 150, so that first statement's a lie. They weren't given 300 names. Israel only agreed to release 150. Hamas only agreed to release 50. This is a complete fallacy right here, folks. 270 were children, 30 were women, 235 were never convicted, 22 were charged with throwing rocks. They are not criminals. These their imprisonment was criminal. Now, this person who posted this shared this out on her Telegram or whatever her social media pages. I frankly don't care. They're claiming that the criminals are Israel and that the imprisonment of these hardcore terrorists, many of which would have done the same violent acts as of October the 7th. I'm just wondering how they come up with 270 were children. Folks, there were no children in those freaking hostages. Every single one of those 150 were hardened Hamas terrorists. That is a lie. But Mr. Peter says, if you look at these statistics and think anything other than Israel is committing crimes against humanity, well, him and this lady that posted that would make great, great anti-Semite club partners. They need to start their own anti-Semite club because I think they get along just fine. Let me just say something to you tonight, folks. Let me show you something. This may help put this in perspective. 13 additional Israeli civilians were released, okay, out of the 50. This is the 13 that were released. Look at that picture right there. Do you see every single one of them are either a woman or a child? And look at the age of the children. These are the people that Hamas was holding and released yesterday and had to be basically coerced to do that. But this is another little thing that's probably not gotten on Mr. Peter's radar because he probably would believe this is a lie. But I want to post, this is from the Stop Anti-Semitism website, and I'm going to close it on this and take your questions. A 10-month-old baby hostage, Kuraf Bibas and his 4-year-old brother, Ariel, and their mother were transferred by Hamas, this was just today, to the PLFP terrorists in Khan Yunis, which is southern Gaza. Hamas and these terrorists are refusing to release them. Look at those two right there, folks, less than a year old. Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine has been designated by the Department of State as a terror organization since October of '97. The following groups were identified to have ties: Al-Haq, Adamir, Defense for Children of Palestine, Union of Agricultural Work Committees, the Bison Center for Research, and the Union of Palestinian Women Committees. Sound like humanitarian. These wonderful Palestinian people, Stu, your kind of people. And that lady that shared that post, her kind of people. Well, I tell you what, your kind of people are holding these two boys hostage with their mother tonight. I want you to explain to this southern gentleman and this South Georgia boy how that is not criminal to you and how that justifies any act of barbarism and how that thank you, Lord. Trying to catch what I was about to say. I tell you what, I'll let you be the moral judge on that tonight, what's criminal and what's not. That's the 13 that have been released. There were 14 in all, and I don't have a picture of the other one. Folks, look at the age of those girls. There's one little boy right there, that Nave Shimon, he was 8. You had a 21-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 52-year-old, a 13-year-old, a 9-year-old, a 53-year-old woman, an 18-year-old, a 3-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 38-year-old, a 66-year-old, she was the oldest, a 17-year-old, and a 13-year-old. Folks, they were all yanked in that massacre on October the 7th. I want to say this to the cowards out there tonight. Where is your moral outrage about this? Where is your outrage? Where is your anger? about this. Anyway, I got to move on tonight. I will pick this up more this week. But that's what's out there, folks. That's what's out there, folks. That's what's out there, folks. That is what's out there. All righty. Now, I'm going to open it up. I got about 15 minutes. You've got 15 minutes for questions and comments. The chat is now open in the e-network. And Cleo, I'm going to ask you, if you don't mind, to please, if we get any questions from Facebook, please put that. And again, the same people, again, I'm glad what Cleo just sent me. She says, you know, the Muslim men rape child brides, and they rape these people, and this same individual that's out there claiming Israel is hiding pedophiles has no story on that. Where is the outrage of the Muslim rape of women and children and the pedophilia in Muslim countries, and basically, again, child brides? I'm just a South Georgia boy, folks. That's pedophilia to me. You take a 13-year-old for a bride, that's freaking pedophilia. But we're so scared to call that out in the Islamic world and the jihad world. But we've got to throw innuendo and throw lies and damnable lies out that Israel's hiding these pedophiles. As if America's not. As if Saudi Arabia's not. As if every single freaking country in the universe ain't hiding them and operating them, and the border that's wide freaking open that's bringing these people over into this country. You can say what you want to about Israel, folks. Israel's closed their border. They know exactly what to do. The people that are destroying them are coming from basically areas that they annexed out to these terrorist groups, and they shouldn't have done it. But because of pressure from this government, they had the Gaza Strip. The Palestinians have been in control of that since 2005, and I'll repeat what Ruth Lande said again tonight, folks. Not one single Israeli soldier has had a boot on the ground in that area since that time. That's almost 20 years ago, 18 years ago tonight. But yet Israel is called the occupier. And the barbarism of Hamas is justified by these spiritual cowards and these political cowards and these people that are nothing but Jew haters, and they are anti-Semites, folks. That's what we call it. And I don't mind calling it like it is and who they are, because that's exactly what they are. Cedric, it is sickening. You got a question now on YouTube, folks, or Facebook, put it in there. We got about 10 minutes. It's 10:57. I'm going to go to 11:10, and then I'm going to call it a night. If you got a question tonight, folks, if you got a question, put it in quick. Put it in quick. Let me see. I'm going to look at the forum and see if we got any questions over here tonight. Let's see. Dennis Floyd says, we know this current clown in the White House is not pulling the strings. I fear that whoever is the string puller will back out of Israel's support when push comes to shove. Dennis, that's a great question. I do not believe that we're supporting Israel. There was a story out. I didn't get the whole details of it, Dennis, but Biden came out and apologized to the Muslim world today. Now, I didn't get the details of what he was apologizing for. I retweeted it on my Mike Fox 45 Twitter account. And I don't believe this support for Israel is legit. I do not. I think it's window dressing. He's trying to play both ends against the middle. Look, if he loses the Jewish vote, he's toast. If he loses the Muslim vote, he's toast. He can't win Michigan without winning Dearborn, Michigan. Dearborn, Michigan is about a 99 to 1% Arab to American population. You don't want to go live in Dearborn, Michigan if you're Jewish, or even if you're American. That's where Rashid Tlaib was elected from. That's her district. So, he's trying to play both ends against the middle. But Dennis, I like your question, and I tell you what, when push comes to shove, I do not see him coming down on Israel's side. I don't. I may be proven wrong. And in all fairness, I agree with the president. What he did, going to visit Israel, was a good token of American support. We needed to do that. And where I may not agree with the thing Joe Biden does, and I can't even stomach the thought of another 4 years of this crap in this country. Look, you have to say, look, he did the right thing. And he's saying a lot of right things. But what's happening, Dennis, if you listen closely, even this weekend, he was in Nantucket with the wife, and he got on a platform, and I think it was Friday after Thanksgiving. He said, we need to make it clear to the Israelis they need to cut down on the casualties. And I wanted to take a shoe and just throw it right in the screen of my television, like, what in the hell, Joe? Who is worried about cutting down on casualties, man? You got 1,500 Israelis dead. Babies murdered. Heads cut off, Joe. And you're wanting to tell Israel to cut down on the casualties? That's how he believes, Dennis. That's this government. Now, I tell you what, if we want to see the end of this country, spiritually, people are worried about the spiritual condition of America. Well, let me tell you, a good barometer of the spiritual condition of America, if you want to see America go down in smoke and go down in smoke quickly, you let us turn our back on her right now. You let us turn our back on Israel. This Genesis 12:3 means something to God. I will bless them that bless you. I will curse them that curse you. He still means that tonight. He means that in 2023, just like he meant it back 4,000 years ago, 6,000 years ago almost now, with Abraham. Abraham was about 2,000 years before Christ, so that'd make it 4. Yeah, he meant that in Genesis 12:3, and he means it tonight. So your question is well taken, Dennis. Well taken. And I do not believe that they're going to support Israel. Let's see here. There's a question about Trump. I don't want to talk about Trump tonight. I'll get to those questions later. Alexis Montgomery, this was from a few days ago. She says, Chris, a young boy was celebrating how many Israelis he killed with his bare hands and even mentioning, Dad, are you proud of me? Put Mom on the phone. I have no words. My question is, after all of this hell on earth, do you know what day-to-day life is like in Israel right now? Are children back in school? Are things continuing to normal? My heart breaks for them. Alexis, mine does too. I don't know if you're out there tonight, dear. As far as I know, look, you got to realize this incident took place in the southern part of Israel in the Gaza in this kibbutz. Della used to live in one. She used to live and did work in one of those kibbutzes. We're going to get Della on the show here, hopefully this week or next, talk about that. And she's got a lot of insight to that. The life in Jerusalem and in most of Israel, I would say, is somewhat normal. But I will tell you this. Even in Jerusalem, they're on edge. And security is very, very, very high right now. Very high. And so anyway, Joanne Griffin in Facebook, she says, why would Israel agree to this when the number of hostages are so uneven? Joanne, that's an excellent question. I think what Ruth said, Joanne, it's very simple, but it's complicated. Israel believes in the sanctity of life. Let me tell you this. If one soldier is killed in Israel, just one, they will mourn for that soldier for a week in Israel because they consider that one life precious. So to Israel, Joanne, whereas they're giving up 150 hardcore terrorists to get 50 of their citizens back. And the crazy thing about that number is there's no Americans in that. This was all Israelis. Those kids. And see what happened Saturday, Hamas started backing away from the deal and blaming Israel, again, manipulating the narrative and blaming Israel was doing something and they were not going to agree to the hostage deal. And so it's fortunate they got 13 out. They were promised 50. They've at least got 13 out. America's not been promised anything. John Kirby was out there tonight. They said they don't even know where our hostages are. That's our government for you tonight, folks. It goes to what Dennis is saying. Oh, we support Israel. We support it. We can't even tell you. They can't even tell us where our own hostages are at over there. They don't know. Joanne, to your question, why did they agree to something like this? It's a spiritual matter to Israel. Those 50 hostages, the lives of those 50 people are worth more than the political cost. And you know something? I tip my hat to that. I wish we had some more clarity like that in this country. Maybe 73 million babies wouldn't be slaughtered at an abortion clinic since 1973, or 81 million, I should say 82, 83 million. Maybe we wouldn't have had the bloodletting of the babies in this country if we appreciated the sanctity of life here. It's a good question, Joanne. It's a matter of life. It's a matter of life, and they consider 50 lives worth saving, even if it means 150 terrorists. I know it don't make sense to us. Look, I don't trust Hamas, folks. I'm holding my breath. Look, I look at those pictures. I want to put that picture back up of those hostages that they released. I want you to look at that picture closely again, folks. I mean, I'm telling you, look at this. I mean, it's mind-blowing. You've only got 1, 2, 3, 4 out of the 13 are over the age of 50. Everybody else are kids. I'm not talking teenagers. I'm talking 8, 9, 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds. That's a 3-year-old right in the middle. Yamal Shamal, she's 3. 3-year-olds, a 17-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 9-year-old. That's who Hamas was holding. And those 2 little boys, folks, I want to ask these anti-Semites, I want to ask these Jew-hating pigs, these Jew-hating pigs, and these Jew-hating demons. That's all I can liken them to. They're nothing but demons. They are being controlled by demon spirits tonight. I want to ask them, what do you tell me is the justification in your sick, demented world that justifies Hamas and these Palestinian peace-loving people holding those 2 at hostage right there? And those organizations right there, those ain't terrorist organizations that are linked to this Liberation for Palestine terrorist group. No, those are humanitarian groups led by those peaceful Palestinian people. I want them to answer me that question. They can't and they won't, because they are cowards and they are anti-Semitic demons. All righty. Good question, Joanne. Very good question. Jack Terrell, do you think Biden will consider moving the American embassy back to Tel Aviv? Jack, that is an excellent question. You know, Jack, it's funny. It's good to see you tonight, by the way, buddy. I thought about that. I've been expecting that. I've been surprised he ain't done it. My guess is in some freaky fluke world that he gets back in that office, and God help us all if he does. It may come the second term. I don't see him doing it now. I think the political costs would be so high. Look, he's hanging on. Again, he's trying to Dennis's point. He's playing both ends against the middle. He's got to have the Jewish vote. He's got to have the Arab vote. He can't have both. He's going to have to pick a side. I don't believe he's going to do that. I would say that in this crazy world we're living in, Jack, all things are on the table. I don't see it happening. Now, Chris has been wrong. That's just my opinion. I don't have any inside knowledge to that. But I think that Joe would be very wise to keep his mouth shut right now about Israel. And I think the less he says, unless he's going to basically support them and go all the way and support him, because all he's doing is, whenever he opens his mouth, he's alienating one of those 2 groups. He's either alienating the Arabs or he's alienating the Jews. He can't support both. You know, it's crazy, Jack. The Antichrist that's coming is going to do both, though. There's going to be such a demonic anointing on that Antichrist, this man that's coming, this man of sin. He's going to solve this problem. And he will appease both of them. And they will come together in a covenant with him. That's what's, if you think about it, the time we're in, that's what we're facing right now. That's what we're facing right now. Great question, but it's good to see you. Liz Goldman says, has any American hostages been released? No, they have not. They have not, Liz. None. Roger Hooker says, Biden apologized to Hamas for questioning the number of Palestinian deaths. You know, thank you, Roger. I appreciate that. And, you know, again, are you joking me? That post that I did, whoever sent that number out there, folks. It was a lie from the beginning. Look, 150 hostages are all that Israel agreed to. The Palestinian deaths, Roger, I got a question for you. I got a question for all of you in Facebook, YouTube tonight. How many of you out there believe a thing that comes out of Hamas's mouth? If you do, put a thumbs up. But if you don't believe anything that comes out, if they told you the sky was blue tomorrow and you would know that that's a lie, give me a thumbs down. Is there any of you that believe a thing that's coming out of their mouth? I don't believe any of the figures. I don't believe there's one figure out there that's true. And look, folks, if you think about it tonight, if the American government cannot even tell you where our hostages are, if you're a family member tonight, an American, I'm talking to the Americans. I ain't talking about the Jewish families. I'm just talking to the American families tonight. Folks, if you're an American family and you got a hostage over there and your government's telling you, oh, we don't even know where they're at, what does that make you feel like tonight? It would engender a lot of feeling that this government's going to get my folks back. Diana said, why did they release all those? Diana, I don't understand your question. I don't understand your question. I think we've already covered that, but anyway. Anthony, are they working on getting the American hostages free? I basically said that, what I just said. You know, Anthony, that's a good question. I can't say that they are. I'm sure that they're claiming they are. But if John Kirby, I read that tonight, folks, and I had to take a double take. I had to put the glasses on. I was like, am I reading that right? And it's the video out there. He literally said it. He said, we ain't got no idea where they're at. Anthony, to your question, I sure hope they are. But Anthony, my gut feeling is, I don't know if the Americans, I don't think this government's doing anything. I think that they, I better be careful what I say here, but I'll just say it like this. Folks, I hope all these hostages come home. I do. You know, like I told Joanne, Israel will mourn the death of one soldier. If one soldier gets killed in battle, they will have a national day of mourning for that soldier. Just one. We have become so cold and callous in this country. We don't care about life. We don't care. Look, the American president should be over there bombing the hell out of Hamas tonight until they release them damn hostages. We shouldn't be having Israel do our dirty work for us in the Middle East. That is a no-no to me. When you take American blood and you put American lives in danger and you take American hostages, you have just declared war on the United States of America in my book. And I'm going to tell you this. You blank with America, we deal with that in no uncertain terms. And see, and it reminds me so much of the Iranian hostage crisis. You know, Rosalind Carter died here about a week ago, and I was watching a documentary on her on C-SPAN over the weekend, just portions of it. I was listening to the interview, and I found it very intriguing that she skirted around Iran. When the interviewer was asking her about her husband's handling of those hostages, she couldn't answer. And it was basically his downfall. He lost to Reagan. Reagan came at a time that the country was as low in morale as you could ever imagine. And Reagan basically beat Carter bad, and he beat Mondale even worse. But that hostage crisis to this day is seen as what cost Jimmy Carter that election in 1980. I was a sophomore in high school. I remember it well. I wrote my term paper on it in American history class that year. Got an A+ on it, too. Same thing is happening tonight. And I'm wondering if these hostages, the longer they stay over there in Gaza, number two, there's two things, Anthony. The longer they stay, the less chance they have of coming home. That is just my opinion, and I don't mean with that to any disrespect to these families that are hoping for the best. I'm hoping for the best with them. I don't want to see any of them harmed. There was a story out, it's unprovable right now, and I'm trying to track it down, but I think it was on the World Israeli Network News Network, that some of the hostages that are coming back, the older ones, have confirmed these hostages are being starved to death. They're not getting any food. They're not getting any water. They are in deplorable conditions. Folks, you think about an adult going through that, but what about these kids with no food, no water, No idea where the parents at. The fear factor is enough. These kids, God knows what they're going through. And folks, we're talking Americans. Anthony, I wished I could answer your question in the affirmative. I don't know. I don't know. If they don't even know where they're at, that should tell us they ain't doing much. They ain't doing much. They ain't doing for much. They ain't doing much. Anyway, I honestly have no faith in our government doing anything about it. It's so sad, and the media is lying about it. Anthony, I could not agree more, my friend. I could not agree more. I could not agree more. Yes, they released 14. It is 14. There's 13 in that picture, Diana, but that's right. Anyway, Anthony, it's a good statement. There is 14. There is 14, but I think the 13 was, I don't know. Look, the figures are all over the place right now, but whether it's 13 or 14, it's still not even a, that's a tenth of the 50. Israel was basically promised 50. As I go out of here tonight, let me tell you this. America, us sitting on the sideline and not getting in that conflict, and this 4-day ceasefire, folks, is a joke. This 4-day ceasefire, I understand tonight they've extended to 2 more days. All Hamas is doing is digging in deeper. All they're doing is digging in deeper. I respect Bibi Netanyahu. I don't agree with everything he does, no more than I agree with any American leader. But I think he's making a huge mistake in giving these terrorists any additional days. He's talking tough, and if you heard our interview with Ruth Guggenheim, I applaud Ruth for being honest about it. She don't think he's got the kahunas to see it through. And I'm tending to wonder if she ain't right. And I hope I'm wrong. And I hope Ruth's wrong about that. Because I'm going to tell you something. If he don't have the kahunas to see it through, it will happen again. And the whole Middle East is going up in smoke. And I'm going to tell you something that's going to happen, folks. There's a ripple effect. Your sons and daughters that I'm talking to tonight, you mamas and dads that's got children in their 20s, early 20s, I got one. I'll share this with you as I close. And I was driving down the road with him at lunch about a month ago, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. KK, you just got to know KK. KK is the best youngin' in the world. I got the best 3 sons. I love them both, all 3 of them. But there's something about your baby. You love that baby. That youngest is always, they tug on your heart more so than the older ones. And KK has been my pride and joy. I love Brandon. I love Josh. It's not, I love one more than the other. But there's just something about the baby. KK has always been a very mild-mannered, well-behaved youngin'. It's never given me or his mom a problem in his entire life. Nothing, ever. Precious youngin'. Precious. He don't get into what his dad gets into. I asked him one day, you watch your dad's show, any? And he sat over there in that car seat, and he put his hand down like this, and he just looked out the window. He never answered, so that was his answer. So I tell him, you don't listen to my show. We're going to lunch. And he said, Dad, he said, do you think they're about to institute the draft? He said, I'm worried that they are. And that's my 21-year-old. He said, I've been hearing things. And I explained to him what was going on. He's thinking about it. You mom and dads need to be thinking about it too. Because if this crap goes up in smoke in the Middle East and we get drawn into this war, don't believe for a second that's not what they're thinking. The government of this country. It's coming. And it's going to involve every one of us then. And then we will have something to be a little bit more worried about than whether Israel is lying about figures. And whether Israel's committing genocide over there. I guarantee what's going to happen. I wonder if Mr. Peter's son was called to fight this conflict and he went over there and saw the carnage of the terrorists in Israel. If he would go back and tell, I don't know if he's got children or not, but I would be curious if his son was called and was caught in this. I wonder if Stu Peters one of these, let me put this figure back up. I wonder if one of those two children right there were some of the sons of these anti-Semites, if they would be posting their damnable heresy and heretical lies about Israel, if one of those two was theirs. I can guarantee you they would not be. And you say, you sound a little disgusted, McDonald. I am disgusted. I'm very disgusted, folks. You know something? You should be too. That's what scares me. A lot of people ain't. That's what scares me. That a lot of people don't even care no more. I do. And I want to say it again tonight, folks. You know, this network ain't perfect. But I can tell you this much. You ain't got no gray area with us right now about where we stand on this. And you ain't never going to have a gray area. Because we're going to stand with Israel. And we're going to stand with what's right. We're going to stand with what's right. We're going to stand with what's right. Cleo says, Thai Muslim group negotiated directly with Hamas. That's why the Thais were released. Thank you. That is true. And also, speaking of that, I want to say this. I don't know if y'all caught it with Ruth tonight. Carter is financing these protests over here. Qatar, I should say Carter. It sounds like Carter. Qatar is financing these college protests. And you know what the sick irony of this? They're the ones that negotiated this hostage release between Israel and Hamas. You make a deal with the devil. That was one of the headlines I saw today, that Israel's made a deal with the devil. I would agree with that. I'd agree with that. Folks, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. If you see something anti-Semitic out there on a Twitter handle or a Facebook, just take a screenshot of it and email it to me. Email it to me. We're going to be doing a full-fledged series on this stuff. And I want to just say this, folks. I've got no personal thing with Stu Peters. I don't even know who he is. I'm just using him. He seems to be one of the louder voices out there, but he's not the problem. He's not the problem. He's a symptom of the problem. I'm going to say it again tonight, folks. Stu Peters, look, he's the snake venom guy. He's the one that convinced some of you to go out and buy $1,000 water purification systems because of a lie. And you believed his bullshit. Stu don't bother me. What he posts disgusts me. But Stu's got to answer to God, just like I do. I'll let Stu answer for his stuff that day, just like I'm going to answer for my stuff. You know what bothers me more? It's the silence. Let me tell you this, folks. Silence is a position. Silence is a position. And it is a declaration. It is a declaration. And I want to read one thing before I leave you tonight. This is Dietrich Bonhoeffer. This is Dietrich Bonhoeffer. The destruction of the embryo in the mother's womb is a violation of the right to live, which God has bestowed upon this nascent life, to raise the question whether we are here concerned already with a human being or not is to merely confuse the issue. The simple fact is that God certainly intended to create a human being, and that this nascent human being has been deliberately deprived of his life, and that is nothing but murder. That was Dietrich Bonhoeffer's clarion call on abortion. Have you noticed this? These same anti-Semites can't tell you what their position on abortion is. They're scared. These silent voices, they don't want to come out and say abortion is murder. No, they want to tell you it's some kind of deep state conspiracy, a sacrifice to Baal. Okay, it's a sacrifice to Baal, but you don't say it's evil. You clarify it's evil. It's a murder of a baby. This prophetic talk, folk, and all of this spiritual talk, it runs shallow with me and hollow, coming from spiritual cowards. And I know that strong talk tonight, that is what disgusts me far greater than what's going on in Israel tonight. Because that is coming from within here and this nation. And the opinions of the Macphails are my own. They're not anybody else's but my own. Going forward, we are here for this right here. We the people. And we're going to fight like hell come 2024, like you ain't never seen us fight before. May God bless you tonight, you, your families, and may the Lord touch you. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Pray for this country. Pray for each other. And you pray for your host. That he don't have a stroke. That he don't have a stroke on his show one night, screaming and yelling. At least it ain't boring, right? At least it ain't boring. I'll see you tomorrow night. Magdalene Rose and Victor Avila is on the way. I'm looking forward to them. Eric Herron's on the deck. Bill Federer is on deck. We got a lot of great guests coming. I'll let you know about Houston hopefully this week. I hadn't heard nothing today. Listen, folks, have a good night. See ya. Good night. I don't think I've ever done this. I want to stop and I want to come back and I got to say something. I just saw somebody post a question. I appreciate that because I've not seen that myself. Have you not been watching the show tonight? I tell you what you do. Rewind the show. I just showed you several examples of the anti-Jewish hate. It's out there. You may not want to see it, but it's out there. All right. I've said my piece. Let me get out of here before I get myself in trouble. I like that video, so I'm going to play that again anyway. It gives me a chance to play this great intro again. See you later. Good night.